Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School. I'm Charlie Mann of law firm Alchemy. My guest today is someone that I've known for, I don't know, 8, 10 years
It
roughly.
just feels like that. Like I think we're going on 6.
Is it just 6 years?
It just feels like that, Charlie. We mesh well.
That we do. We do. I mean, not only that, but guest today. And by the way, I so appreciate that you went ahead and just spoke. Like, you didn't sit there waiting politely for the introduction. Like, truly, like, genuinely, I appreciate that, because the whole, like, guest sits there very dutiful, waiting their turn. Yet it's like, nah, we've pressed record, all bets are off at this point. But my guest today shares a name. I guess she's the first to have it, but shares a name with one of my daughters. She is an amazing chief marketing officer for an exceptional firm, and someone who actually helps coach other firms on their marketing, on their growth, and has a really awesome perspective as an insider within a practice in industry where, she brings an outsider's perspective in there. So my guest today is Cassidy Lewis. Cassidy, so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Charlie. I'm so excited about our conversation today.
So am I. Okay, so you got to answer the question. What's the one thing they don't teach you in law school?
Dun 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 dun. You might like dramatic music.
Yes.
Okay, so
I should have dramatic music, though. I should have, like, a drum roll. I should do sound effects. What am I doing?
Yes, Charlie. We know this. So obviously, I've never been to law school, but watching the attorneys in my office, one thing that I feel like is taught to lawyers and almost has to be unlearned. So I'm kind of answering the question, unlearned in marketing specifically, is lawyers are taught to pick apart any and everything. Right. And my managing partner, Jim, he actually makes fun of it. He was like, if I'm in my marketing mode, I'd say go. If I'm in my lawyer mode, this. And that can be that pick apart that they do, it can be so stifling.
Yeah.
For your creatives, for your marketers in your workplace. Thankfully, like I said, my managing partner understands that, and so he will often say, okay, I'm gonna turn this off and we're just gonna talk creativity. But you think about all of the strategy, all of the campaigns, all of the whatever it is, if we picked it apart, we could do it all day and nothing would get off the ground. Nothing would get off the ground, so it's like that, don't let perfect get in the way of good. Another one of Jim's famous sayings, don't let perfect get in the way of good. Like, allow your marketers to market, allow them to strategize, allow them to be tactical, allow all the things. Do not don't put on your lawyer hat. So I guess if I had to answer it like word for word, is one thing they don't teach you in law school is they don't teach you the importance of how do I want to word the importance of starting for marketing and not allowing that perfect to get in the way of good.
So it's like the idea of the therapist taking home the therapizing to their family, right? It's the same thing with lawyers. They take the being a lawyer into every space, which obviously when you are being a lawyer is super valuable. But when it comes to the kinetic energy of growing a practice, right? And that's part of what this is secretly all about. It's the energy that you put out there, whether it's the kinetic energy of the marketing or just like the positive energy that you have as a human being. It's shockingly valuable to just press go. So, okay, let's dig in far and fast on this, because there are a lot of firms I know would make so much more progress, Cassidy, if they empowered their marketers to get stuff done. How did you either trick them into letting you get more done, manage up, take control? What did that all look like?
I first have to say, I am connected with dozens of legal marketers, and I am watching them drop from their law firms one by one because their managing partner, the attorney that they report to or whatever it is, does not allow them to market. So it's not just a positive side. It's, I'd like the attorneys that are listening to know that, I mean, I'm watching them drop one by one. I had a marketer of a huge law firm, CMO, call me in tears within the last 2 weeks. Just,
Wow.
I can't do what I need to do. So again, having a managing partner that understands both sides helps a lot.
Yeah.
The number one thing there are two things that are extremely important for a marketer in the office, especially when we oftentimes, if it's a bunch of attorneys and legal staff, we are the oddball in the office, right? We think differently, we speak differently, our energy is different, all of the things, right? There are two really, 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 really important things. The first one is that regular, consistent communication, right? I feel like when an attorney has to fill in the blank, that's when that picking apart takes place. Like if I give you I'll give you an example. I started a part of our strategy is just the community involvement, right? And so I created something called Vote for a Cause, Vote for School, right? And it's where the community goes and votes for a nonprofit or school, right? It's our biggest, it's like our flagship. It's wonderful. 10, 12,000 people enter. It's stars, it's stripes, it's all the things. I want to expand, right? And Jim, because I didn't give him my background as to where it started, sort of filled in the blank with X, Y, and Z. And I think that sometimes as attorneys, they fill in the things of why it could go wrong instead of why it could go right, right? And that was on me. So I think as far as the CMO or the marketing director in the building, you have to have that consistent communication. And as the attorney, the managing partner, you have to make sure that that takes place. I've been here almost 6 years. My boss and I still meet every 2 weeks. We have meetings in between, but every 2 weeks where we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about all of our primary strategies and all of our tactics. That's number one. Number two, and this is extremely important, we need the budget. We need the money.
No, but don't you dare use that word, Cassidy Lewis.
I said the B word. I said the B word. Man. Like I talked to legal marketers. I'm like, yeah, well, like what's your monthly budget? And it's just like, oh, well, I just tell him or her like this is what I want to do, and I get this project approved.
Yep.
If you want a leader, if you want a leader in your office, that sort of those baby steps. Oh, I get me out. Get me out. I'm crying, I'm screaming because I can only be tactical. I can't strategize. I don't know what's happening next month. I'm fearful every time I have to ask you for money. There's some sort of level of anxiety. So I think if I had to pick two things as to, like what allows me to do well, is me and Jim's communication and the dollars that he gives me to do what I need to do.
Okay, so if you're either a firm owner or a marketer and you haven't started establishing some type of rhythm, where should you begin?
I can go 6 different ways with that. Do you mean like if I'm looking at starting my marketing?
No, so let's say like either you're a firm owner or you're a marketing director in the firm, and one of the issues has been we're not communicating regularly, and we need to get that process started. How do you on-ramp?
I would set aside a full day, marketer and managing partner. Or if there are multiple partners, marketer and the 2 or 3 shareholders, however, the people in leadership. And because what happens is, I've seen this happen too, and it starts at hiring. The attorneys want primarily public relations, for example, and they've hired a digital marketer. Or the attorneys think of marketing as advertising, TV and radio, and the person has a social background or a community background. And so I would take that that day and figure out where that marketer's strengths lie truly, because marketers, and I got beef with us for this, like, oh yeah, I can do it all, and it's like,
yeah,
No, not necessarily. You may be familiar with it all, but can you do it all well?
Ooh, yes.
Um,
You may know a lot. Can you do a lot?
right. So figuring out where that marketer's strengths lie and where the business owners, the law firm owners actually want to go. Like what when you think of marketing as a law firm owner, what do you think of? You can't say everything. Don't say everything. Don't start that. But is it
Everything.
no, please. I cry like when I hear that. Like maybe your top three priorities. Like I
Right.
really, really want us to have a social media strategy, and I want a podcast. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like figure out where those are, those big picture strategies, the why behind it. I still love a SWOT analysis. I know there are newer versions of it. I still
I
love
love
them.
a SWOT analysis.
I
Yes.
do. I do. I have them every year in my in my marketing playbook or my marketing plan, um, and really just figure out what the strategy is going to be for the next 2 to 3 years. And
So we
I
have a
think that
full
conversation,
day together. I
full
mean,
day,
my gosh,
full day.
that's
Easily, it
intense.
could go on. It could be two, but absolutely a full day.
And during that day together, so you're talking about marketing strategies. How much do you get communicated with about like the larger vision of the firm? Like, hey, in 3 years we want to be at this level.
Often,
Hmm.
I am on the leadership team, so 80% of my time is chief marketing officer. The other 20% is being on the leadership team, and we use Traction.
Hmm.
So I'm very involved, and I don't know which happened first. I don't know if it's because I was asking the questions that and my boss was open enough to say this is my what's, my whys, or he deemed it necessary.
Hmm.
Your best marketers will inquire or should inquire because it drives us. Like your marketing directors, those people, even if they're not, even if they don't have the title, the ones that have the potential, that drives us. The reason why we have such a strong community base is my first few months here, Jim sat me down. He was like, I want to be known as the thank you firm. I was like, what is the thank you firm? Like, what do you mean? Like, you want people to say thank you? Like, what are you talking about? He was like, oh, I don't know, but you'll figure it out. And our way of
I
saying,
love that.
yeah, our way of saying thank you is giving back to the community. So that was me coming. He had the strategy, I had the tactic. But it is extremely important to have your marketer involved in your what's and your whys and your visions and your what you see for your firm. Absolutely.
So that obviously involves like a process of trust, right? Jim trusts you. So what do you think it is that inspires people to place that trust in you?
Attorneys are not usually trusting, number
Mm-hmm.
one. So you have to know that to be true. Um, so I think it's important for marketers to know attorneys as much as it is attorneys to understand marketers and how they think. And how I see attorneys, they are very, I guess it's a podcast, I need to say what I'm showing you. They are very linear thinkers.
Yeah.
There's A, there's B, there's C, there's D. I will speak for all of the marketers in the room when I say we think A, frog, New York, 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're creatives, and we see the connections between A and frog for some reason. I don't know. Amphibian. I don't know. Right.
Well, there you go. Right. You've already gotten there.
Right. And so it was important for me to say, yes, I'm a creative, and yes, I would like to come all the way around the mulberry bush in how I got here, but I have to explain in Jim's terms why this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I need to say A, and then B, and then C, and then D. That coupled with time. You know what I mean? It's definitely been a time. I think we both trust each other more.
Yeah.
And when I got here, he was open with me. I feel like marketers appreciate that because most of us are empaths, so we know anyway. how you feel about us. That's what makes us good marketers. That's what makes us so great in client services and just, being able to feel out our audience and our demo. But Jim being open and honest with me about what he trusted me with and what he did not. It just, it's definitely grown over the years.
What do you bring? I mean, like in terms of knowing thyself, what do you think it is that either you have innately or taught yourself or discovered that inspires that trust from other people? Because like I know that I trust you. Mm-hmm. I certainly have some reasons for it, but I'm curious from like you, what have you done to create that trust that I think you inspire in a lot of people?
That's a good question. I've never asked myself that. I think if we got people in the room to describe me, if there were 10 people in the room, 11 would probably say that I am fully transparent. I'm extremely transparent. Like, for me, and I'm hard on myself too, so if I mess something up, which I do still, 6 years, 14 years in marketing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Usually I'm going to bring it to Jim before he can bring it to me. Hey, look, this was supposed to be this. I didn't do this. Or you wanted me to give it to you this date, right? Again, because they're linear thinkers. You wanted me to give it to you this date. I can't produce. I'm stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. I need you to leave me alone actually for the next 2 weeks so I can get some stuff done. You know what I mean? That's sort of like, because they have those expectations on you, like any good boss. If he tells me to get something done by September 1st, I need to do everything in my power to get it done by September 1st. But also come August 31st, hey, guess what? This isn't going to happen like I thought it would. It's my responsibility to get it done. I can't. I just can't. So I'm going to leave now. You can be upset with me, but I got to go.
So what informs that level of transparency? Because some people don't have it, but you do. So what crafted that?
Likely the opposite. I think innately I may have. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's okay. It's Ty. Charlie, say hi.
Hey, Charlie.
Hi, Ty.
How are you?
I'm good. You're on a podcast now.
I know, you made it.
I did.
Featuring Ty Bryant.
That's right. They call my grandmama, let her know I made it.
Hilarious. I hope your podcast is this fun. I'm an empath. I'm naturally a people pleaser, and that causes, for me personally, like this is a little bit of a therapy session. That causes that anxiety, right? Like that I have to, and that have to has led to burnout. That have to has led to like. If you're worth your weight in salt, you know what I mean? You know something's off. So I think the opposite has just created this abundance of transparency. You know what I mean? Like I can't be a people pleaser anymore. So what I can do is be very open, honest, and transparent about what's actually taking place. And from there, we can build trust. And you may have to be upset. Like I said, you may be upset I didn't get it done by that date, but I was honest about it. I slept last night. You know what I mean?
That's everything. That's right. Everything is the ability to do that. Now, not everybody approaches it same way. I think that the transparency thing is obviously really beneficial when you're working with a firm owner who there is that litigation side, right? Of they're potentially looking for the fact pattern that would upset them, that would give them reason to say like, oh, this person isn't working out, more so than this is why this person is working out. But you have to understand, like if you are, and obviously that's not true for every lawyer, we get that. But the point here is that if you are a marketer in a firm, and I hope that every firm owner makes their marketer listen to this episode, if you're the marketer, like laying down that level of transparency is huge. It is transformative it means that you're not going to have stuff picked apart in the same way, because there isn't this constant concern of, I need to find the truth if the truth is always presented to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to that communication, because if Jim and I did not have such a good relationship, would I be, my transparency is on a spectrum, right? Would I be as transparent? You know what I mean? But I feel comfortable enough, and he says, like, he'll say something like, you were mean to me today, or you were yelling today. You kicked me out of your office today. I have that ability, and I think, and my attorneys, especially sometimes, they don't get it. I think the Esquire alone is intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's intimidating, and they can become a litigator. They can switch like that, and they don't know. And that's great for court or for negotiation. It's great for all those things, but for a regular human-to-human relationship, it is intimidating, and it's a lot. So again, going back to having that communication, to having that relationship, it means so much to I can't speak for the other staff members, legal staff members, but I know for marketers, for the natural empaths in the room, it means so much to us.
Okay, so obviously the other side of this is a more data-driven side, right? There is the creative side, but then there is the data behind marketing. That probably inspires a level of trust. So I'm really curious, and I guarantee, and like I know that you coach with firm owners, you've coached a lot of marketing directors, et cetera. I know you do, work through some organizations to do that. When you're talking with folks about data, what should firms be tracking? What do you track? Like, let's pull open the lid a little bit here and go, okay, you're in a growing firm. We don't have to use exact numbers, but like, it's a significant firm. It's one of the top advertisers in the region, in the legal space. So what are you tracking that aids in development of marketing, aids in development of growth?
Number one, we track a lot.
Yeah.
I told my...
Was it always that way?
No. When I got here, that December of 17, I think earlier that year, they hired Daniel, who's my senior analyst, and he had just started tracking. So we were very, very early in the tracking when I got here. I told my team I want to make sure that everything that we're tracking is needed. That's where we're at now. Like, I'm considering peeling back some things. I think before it's the what, it's the why. Asking the questions, right? And I say that because every marketing campaign is not going to bring in intakes tomorrow, right? And I talk about this. So you have a marketing campaign that brings in intakes today and intakes for tomorrow. People are okay at tracking the intakes today. Let's do calls, let's do wanted, let's do website traffic, things like that. Where people get fuzzy are the intakes tomorrow, the branding campaigns. Those are the ones where it's like, well, we didn't get any calls from it. Well, that's because that was branding. That was TV. People think TV are for intakes today. I'm not on that train. I don't want to argue. I don't want to scuffle with you marketers today. But it's the why. So if we're doing a community event, for example, I don't expect to get an intake from that for a year, if any, right? That is for, if we have a raffle, how many people entered the raffle? How many times did they play our jingle at the community event? How many people walked up to us and said, I sent a case, I work with you, I told somebody to go, you know what I mean? Those sort of soft sells that people don't often think about and don't often track. One of the more powerful KPIs that I've been tracking within the last 2 years are conversion rates, right? So conversion rates within referral sources, right? So TV is definitely one of my more expensive referral sources, but it has a higher conversion rate. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, cool. So everything else is converting at about 25%. TV is converting at 40%. Okay, so what does that mean for us?
Well, let me ask you real quick, Cassidy. So when you use the term conversion rate, does that mean percentage of people who are calling who are qualified and could become clients, or just qualified leads? Like, what's conversion rate when you measure it?
Sure. Qualified and could and should become clients. Called for personal injury matter that we would handle, has enough injury that we would accept the case.
So someone calls, and so if it's coming from, let's say, TV, it's that 40%. 40% of people who call from TV are people who are essentially eligible to work with your firm.
Correct.
Gotcha. Cool.
Right. But the conversion rates make a lot of sense. We recently switched web development teams, web development companies, and ironically, our organic traffic did not go up. No. Our conversion rates on our pages went up.
Ah.
And it was everything. We have to hire a new team to handle the cases that we're getting.
Wow.
That's where we are. We are planning, okay, we're going to take over this new space. We're doing all of this. And I said, the first month, I said, this has to be wrong. We have all these cases referred by the internet. What's going on? They're like, no, this is the correct organic traffic. Okay, that's weird. I checked all the Google Analytics. Like, I'm like, something's wrong. Like, y'all know what y'all talking about? I know what I'm It was right. It was right. I think that's a KPI that people just do not track enough. It's, what are your conversion rates and why? You know what I mean? I know for like web, they shot up because we got rid of like 2,000 pages on the site, whether cut them, combine them, whatever it was, just updated the content, all of the things, better design, all of the things. That conversion rate shot up.
Wow. That's huge. I can promise you that there are going to be people who listen to this who are going to reach out to you and want to know what that web team is. Yeah, for sure. So then from a larger perspective, firms that are graduating to, okay, I'm going to have, like I said, a senior level marketing position. They may not be ready for a chief marketing officer, right? Firm in the size that you're at, a C-level suite is very appropriate to have. But let's say it's, okay, I'm going to have a really trusted marketing director, or I am graduating up to that chief marketing officer. What are you measured at as the senior member of the marketing team?
So I have 3 primary duties, like everyone in the firm.
Yeah.
And number 1 is to make the phone ring with what we call green intakes that we want.
Okay.
Number 2 is essentially to empower all of our internal and external resources to make the phone ring with the right intakes. And so internal is obviously my team. I manage a marketing team in-house, and then all of our vendors. And then the last is the brand piece, which, as you can imagine, is the most difficult to measure.
Sure.
We use the what's called the Marshall Marketing Report. And so what they do is they look at brand recall for regions by industry. So they ask, I forget the number now. Let's say it's 10,000 people that live in my region, and say, if you had to name a personal injury lawyer, who would you name? And so what I've measured by is how much that goes up. So like last year we doubled. But then a piece of that also is to look at who's above me and to figure out strategy from there. Like the number 1 firm in the region, they don't do more TV than us. They don't do more marketing than us. They've been around for 50 years and they have a gene. Okay. And I know we've been on this auditory branding push. We have been on this, if I want you to say it, you have to hear me. I don't know how many marketing nerds are going to listen, but behind smell, hearing is what you will remember the most, right? You think it's seen and read. No, it's smell, it's hearing, and then I don't even know what's after that. So, like looking at that and then going from there. And then there's a bunch of smaller ones, like doing, the marketing plan, managing my team well, the budget, there are a bunch of other pieces, and they're filling in the gap if we're missing a marketing team member, community, all of those things.
Okay, so in addition to having kind of a different set of metrics that you're measured by, there's the whole idea of constructing a marketing team. And the longer that I've worked with firms, the more that you start seeing some of these firms mature, get bigger, etc. One of the complicated factors is so many of these firms, let's say they're going from a point of $2 million in revenue. They have a marketing director. And they're traveling to, hey, we want to do $7, $8, $9, $10 million in revenue. And they fail to staff up in the marketing space. You actually have a marketing team. So let's talk to that a little bit, of the value of establishing a team, and what did you look to do first in building out that team?
Sure. That just goes back to, firstly, it goes back to my, most marketers, if you live in the world, they are familiar with a lot of different pieces of marketing. You and I've actually talked about this. Marketing is fragmented. The marketing industry is fragmented right now.
Yeah.
I think your CMO or your marketing director needs to be the most versed in different pieces. Like, I know enough to be dangerous about a lot of things.
I always love that phrase.
I know enough to be like, I can run with you in the conversation. I might close the door and be out of breath, like, whew. He said. So you want the leader of your team to be versed in a lot of different things, and you have to know that with that comes with a marketer that's thirsty for knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. I'm always going to want to learn something else. Like, when I was getting my master's, Jim was like, "Why are you doing that? Like, you're here, you work here. Are you quitting? What are you doing?" I was like, "No, I want to learn," and that was the best place for it. As far as how I built the team out, I built the team out for my deficiencies specifically. Right? So either my deficiencies or something I couldn't get to, right? So my director of client services, as much as I love client services, they're a lot of work. A lot of work. I can't do that and do everything else.
Okay, so real quick, that's interesting that your director of client services is then part of marketing and managed by marketing?
Yes, absolutely.
Important little note that we want to, check mark for everyone here.
Please highlight it. That used to be a position of mine. I used to be the director of marketing and client services, and it works very well. I can understand the other side of that.
Yeah.
But if client services is true to its core, it is client satisfaction, and you almost want them out of the legal side. You want them to have an unbiased view of what could be better, and not, oh, we can't do that because of this, or we shouldn't do that because of that. You want them to push the envelope a little bit. But yes, my director of client services, and that was Ty. That's who came in here a second ago. And then Janae, she is our creative coordinator. And she handles anything that you see visually. Janae did. I can't write my name neat. A little fun fact. So, like, Canva's great, but, like, she's outstanding with photography, videography. She's actually, she can actually write pretty well, which isn't commonly found. And she's extremely organized and extremely meticulous. I'm only meticulous if you make me meticulous. I don't want to be. Don't make me reread it. Again, I knew her from before I worked here, and so I kind of got her over here after about 2 or 3 years. And then Jimmy, who is Jim's son, and he's our marketing assistant. And he, again, took over something that we couldn't get to. It was our database, just handling our database, and he was supposed to come in sort of as a temp. And I was like, nah. Once I saw him work and I saw his mind and I saw his, just his abilities, you need to come in. So now he works with our attorney marketing team as well. One thing I talk about for attorney to attorney marketing, attorneys like attorneys. Mm-hmm. However, they often accept an attorney child. He speaks their language. He knows them. They remember him from 20 years ago, from 10 years ago. And so we saw that opportunity. We brought him in full time also.
That's awesome. So so you have a team that works underneath you, but I also know that you coordinate some of the efforts with attorneys in the practice. There are certain expectations about networking, all that. And so some of the work that you do seems to be, we'll call it empowering, but I think maybe the better term is holding people accountable or bullying them into doing certain marketing functions for the attorneys. So what are some of those things, and how do you get people to engage?
So, again, for attorney to attorney marketing, attorneys like to build those relationships with attorneys. Now, one thing that me and Jim go back and forth on, because our attorney referred cases are our best cases, hands down. You're talking about KPIs, right? I'm gonna go back to this. I'm looking at our top 20 cases for the last 3 years and everything I want to know about them. If you have not done that, you should do it. I've been here almost 6 years. This is my first time doing it. I'm having so much fun. It was supposed to be like this really simple report. It's expanded. The whole team is involved. There are fireworks. But that's something really interesting to do. Over half of the revenue produced from those cases came from attorney referred cases. And so Jim's always like, how do we put more revenue into this? And I'm like, it's not revenue. It is a resource, but the resource is time, right? How do I get the attorneys to go to more lunches? How do I get them to go to more events? How do I get them to send more notes, make more phone calls, send more text messages, whatever it is, right? We got the advertising. Like you saw us in VLW, Virginia State Bar Magazine, LinkedIn.
Yep.
If there's an attorney event, especially if it's AAJ, especially if it's a local event, we're sponsors. That's the easy stuff. As far as getting them to engage, it's again, some of that is trust. Some of that is them being very clear on the expectations, right? And being repetitive about them. Look, they don't want to talk to me. I don't mind going to lunch with you. Sometimes the attorneys will take me to lunch. Look, you're so good at conversation. Come to lunch. I'm like, okay.
Free lunch. Okay.
Right. Sure. But being very clear in those expectations. We've done like campaigns, like we'll call it Next 4. We're going to give you 4 attorneys to connect with, and these are going to be the attorneys that you connect with all year. It went okay.
So you're trying to like gamify the process almost?
Is it? I mean, we have a whiteboard, and it's like number of touches, like maybe.
Yeah. So you have like a leaderboard for this type of stuff almost.
For sure. We have a report that goes out monthly, and I just had Jimmy add like 3 months ago. Now it says, so like if Cassidy and Charlie were attorneys, it would say Cassidy, number of touches, 4. If Charlie had 10, everybody gets to see that. Don't let the other attorneys listen to this podcast. Jim can listen to it. He's great. But ironically enough, attorney accountability is something that we talk about because their main job is to work the cases, to work the file. Yeah. And if it's between settling or litigating this big case or taking an attorney at lunch, the case is going to win every time. I have told Jim that he needs to be more adamant about, or more encouraging.
That was a pregnant pause before the word adamant.
I can't say what I really said, Charlie. I told you we trust each other. He needs to encourage their involvement more. They're like, okay, Cass, yeah, I got it, but I'm not their boss.
Mm-hmm.
They say I think I'm their boss sometimes, but don't listen to that. Jim has to be more encouraging, and say, hey, look, make sure you do X, Y, and Z. So right. It's a difficult one. That one's definitely a top down. There's no marketing campaign that can really do the attorney referred can do what needs to be done for attorney referred cases. There's no what I mean when I say campaign.
Yep. No, I mean some of this stuff is just like boots on the ground, just old fashioned.
Yes.
Network with folks. Like building relationships, and that is definitely, it's a difficult perspective to have when the work that you do as an attorney, it obviously has the high calling aspect. There's the whole Atticus Finch complex to what gets done. There's this, obviously you're going to prioritize all of that, and especially when you're in a firm that has a really strong marketing department, sometimes that generation of cases can be taken for granted. And what happens is you have this assumption of like, well, a big part of the marketing is we're doing good work, and so the cases will keep coming to us. It's like, yeah, but sometimes you got to make sure you're telling people about the good work that you're doing. Sometimes you got to tell people about the referral checks that you're cutting. Sometimes you got to tell people about the community work that you just did. Doing it's great, but it helps to highlight it. There's a time and place to do community work that is just endemic to the soul of the law firm or the soul of the individual. All for that. Like if there's something that you just go, look, this is my fun little secret. It's not part of marketing. It's because I like to do it. We're leaving it alone. Great, that's okay. Right. But if that's your attitude about everything, you're fighting a losing battle.
Right. One thing that Jim also did for the attorney marketing, it's a team, right? He put an attorney on the team, and John Baker has been outstanding because he sees things that I don't, or understands things that I don't. Like, oh, if we worded it like this in this email, the attorneys wouldn't like that. I'm like, well, why? Like, attorneys, stop being weird. Like, this is fine. He's like, no, don't do it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. If it's your first time hearing me speak, I talk about attorneys all the time. I love y'all, I promise.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about it. Like, truly, you, Cassidy, you do love the attorneys because obviously, like, right, it's now an interesting chosen vehicle of like, hey, we're all ascending together here as the firm grows. It grows your piece of the pie as well as the whole pie grows. Now, one thing that happens with a lot of marketers, and this will be one of the last things that we touch on before I have my final 3 questions that I'll ask you, is when they're handed so many ideas and wondering, how do I deal with the deluge of ideas? How do I prioritize? What should I do first? I know you work with marketing directors. How do you lead them in those moments?
So let me just be clear. When the attorney is giving the marketer a bunch of ideas, or vice versa? Oh, okay, yeah. And traction. What is that person called? The innovator?
Integrator.
No. The visionary. The visionary.
Oh, yes.
Is the one that has a bunch of ideas. This is what I've given. This is very stressful because for marketers, it is. You heard my deep sigh.
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to throw ourselves off track anyway. We have that shiny object syndrome. For you, the audacity for someone else to come in and throw us off track is wild.
Right.
That clear communication. So I have said things like, hey, look, no passion projects this year. Nothing we would just want to do. If it doesn't fall within buckets 1, 2, and 3, we can't do it. And you talk to them about, for the marketer, what makes sense. So is that budget? Where it's like, look, this is my budget. I plan to stay within this budget. We know we can't spend outside of this budget, so no. Mm-hmm. If it's for like community donations is one that we get hit with a lot because we do a lot for the community, but we have a focus, youth and education based initiative. So when there's some large number that's going to eat up a fair amount of the budget, I'm like, hey, look, that doesn't fall within, that's not aligned with the focus of Cooper Hurley Injury Lawyers Cares. And if it's incongruent, we at least need to question it. And it's a delicate conversation because, again, this is their money. Yeah. It's their firm. It's their all of it. But if that communication is there and that trust is built, the attorney should be able to trust the marketer to say, okay. Maybe not always okay, but okay. But it's just that come in, I think we should do such and such. And I'm looking back at my marketing strategy like, that's not what we talked about. And I think for the marketer on the opposite and putting something on us, you have got to have a marketing plan. Don't start every year with just, we're going to market. part of them coming up with their brand new shiny ideas could be because they don't trust your direction because you've given them no direction. That, managing your boss is a thing, right? So you've given them no direction. They're going to fill in the blank with whatever they see fit.
That's true. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, coming to the space with a plan, getting agreement on it, all these are really elemental pieces that, because there's not as formalized a business MBA style infrastructure within the law firm community, we don't have those sort of tools to lean on, those expectations to lean on when working with a firm, right? If you and I are talking with a firm owner, it's a lot of it is everything from the top to the bottom that has to be figured out. What's our marketing system? What's our operations system? What's our financial measurement system? What's our data tracking? All of it has to go into place. Fortunately, it is an industry or profession where margins are high enough that if you're willing to invest, you can build this thing into a definitive business for yourself with a law firm.
And so, it just, for people, especially if you get I worked at 2 Fortune 500s, and you're given what needs to be done. You are given very clear expectations.
Right.
So I'm not the one creating the plan, or I was the one creating the plan, or whatever it is. And so to come in, and I enjoyed it, but to come in and all right, this is our vision, make it happen. Well, what? Well, what do you want? Was that what you want? I don't know how formal you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's, me and Jim did a video about how to hire and work with a marketing director, and one thing that he said was very important to him was to know what he wanted before he even brought me on. You know what I mean? That's essential. I know what I want, so then I can hire, right? And then that expectation is made right away.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. So, Cassie, before I ask you the last 3 questions, if someone wants to connect with you, follow you, etc., what's a good place for that to happen?
Sure. So LinkedIn is Cassidy Lewis. You can find me there. I work at Cooper Hurley Injury Lawyers, the car crash experts. I was going to plug it. I was going to find a way. But you can email me at clewis@cooperhurley.com. Those are the best ways to connect with me.
Awesome. All right. 3 last easy questions. Question number 1. What are you reading these days?
What am I reading? It's 3 books. One, and that's why I'm kind of offended. What we found in Hallelujah, it is a novel, oh my gosh, you gave me this book recommendation. Oh my gosh,
boy.
It's the book about focusing. What is it?
The One Thing?
No, I read that.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it just escaped my mind, and I see you gave it to me. It's a thick book.
Oh,
and he talks about people that went away for days at a time to just focus. You know the book I'm talking about.
Yeah, so this is going to drive us both crazy. I'm just going to tell everyone, look in the show notes. We'll have figured out the book by the time that this episode releases. Yes.
Deep work. It's deep work.
There we go. Thank you. Well done. Well done. You saved us there, Cass.
Yes.
And then what are you watching?
What am I watching? I just started a documentary called Painkillers on Netflix.
Oh,
it just came out. Yeah, just came out. It's good stuff. I'm a documentary dork. If there's a documentary out there that I should watch, you guys please tell me. Tell me that on LinkedIn. That'll get my attention.
There you go. There's a good way to get in her good graces. Reach out to Cassidy and recommend a documentary. And then last question is, what are you listening to?
Regular marketing book podcasts. He's actually local, which I didn't know when I started listening to it. He invites the authors of different marketing and growth books on his podcast and just does a rundown. And it's an easy way for me to get through a bunch of books at once and figure out which ones I actually like.
I like that approach.
I read a lot of books. I'm like, I made it to the end, barely.
Yeah, you don't have to read them all, it turns out. All right, Cassidy, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a delight to talk with you, and I hope people go and connect with you for sure.
Please do. Thank you so much for having me, Charlie. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. And I will see you all in the next episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School.